With a roll call, please, Ben.
Counselor Bosmans,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Here.
Counselor Woodruff, here, Counselor Yazzie,
Here.
and Mayor Youssef.
Here. May we have an introduction of the translator, please?
Hi, everyone.
Smarter than the machinery.
Hope you can hear my audio okay. I'm Diego Pons here again with the
We
Community
cannot
Language
hear you very
Cooperative.
well for some reason.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just speaking. It's pretty low volume.
Are you able
Can
to
you hear
me here?
me?
Testing, seeing if you can hear me.
Okay, go ahead and we will listen carefully.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank
Okay.
you.
So Diego Pons here with my colleague Andrea on behalf of the CLC, the Community Language Cooperative. As always, thanks for having us. We're going to keep using simultaneous interpretation here on Zoom to help create this space in English and Spanish. After I finish giving the instructions in both languages, we'll turn on the interpretation. And then at that moment, you'll see the globe icon is going to appear in the bottom right-hand corner of your computer screen. We'll ask you to please select that globe icon and to select your preferred language. And if you're joining the meeting today on your cell phone or your tablet, please look for the More button or the 3 dots button to select your preferred language this other way. So if you're not fully bilingual, we'll strongly encourage you to select your preferred language so that you can use the interpretation if anyone were to speak in the opposite language. And if you are bilingual, then just feel free to listen to everyone in the original language. Thank you for that. Buenas tardes a todos y todas. Mi nombre es Diego Pons. Estoy aquí con mi colega Andrea, de parte de la Cooperativa Comunitaria de la Justicia del Lenguaje, el CLC. Y gracias por invitarnos hoy a su reunión esta noche. Vamos a comprometernos a servir a la justicia del lenguaje y vamos a utilizar la interpretación simultánea aquí en Zoom para crear ese espacio en inglés y en español. Ahora, cuando termine yo de decir esto, se va a activar la interpretación y ahí entonces usted va a ver ese icono del globo de la Tierra que dirá interpretación ahí abajo en la derecha de su pantalla. Le voy a pedir que por favor elija ese icono del globo de la Tierra que dirá interpretación y que por favor seleccione su idioma preferido. Y si usted está asistiendo hoy a la reunión en su celular o en su tableta, por favor, busque la opción que dice More, que quiere decir más, o posiblemente el botón de 3 puntos para que pueda elegir su idioma preferido de esta otra manera. Si usted no es completamente bilingüe, le vamos a aconsejar que elija su idioma preferido para que pueda utilizar interpretación cuando alguien está hablando en el otro idioma. Si usted sí es bilingüe, siéntase libre de escuchar a todos hoy en su idioma original. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We're going to move on to opening remarks by Mayor and Council. Council, any opening remarks? Okay, seeing none. I just want to remind the residents who've joined us today, if anyone would like to speak tonight during our business meeting, you must sign up on one of these sign-up sheets over there. I will remind you during the public participation sections, but we definitely want to have a public recording for the public record. So moving on now to city manager updates. Jose.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we do have one city manager update. It is a update on our self-insurance summary. As most of you know in council, that was a fund that with our health insurance cost was not in the best position, but we've done some changes and it is improving. And so Bonnie is here to give us an update as to some of the critical decisions that were made and the rewards that we've seen from those decisions.
Hi, Mayor, Council, Bonnie Kling, Human Resources Director. Nice to see you up here. Thanks, Jose. And yeah, tonight we're here to talk about the self-insurance fund summary from 2023. The Human Resources team in conjunction with the finance team and Gallagher Benefit Services, we really try to initiate some strategic changes to the plan to help stabilize the fund. Some of those changes included adding a high deductible health plan with a health savings account for the employees and offering a 4-tier benefit option for both the PPO and the high deductible plan. And then we also got a little creative and started adding some quarterly healthcare educational opportunities for our employees on how to utilize our benefits more effectively. And, you know, out of those changes, we saw some really great results. We had a funding surplus of $456,000 this year in the self-insurance fund, which equates to 94% total cost ratio. Comparatively to in 2022, the plan had a deficit of $295,000. And this is the first time since 2020 that the self-insurance fund has actually had a surplus. So big gains there for that. And then we also had $1.2 million reduction in claims reaching the stop loss threshold. So,
Can
I
I
don't-
interrupt for a second?
yes, sir.
The screen is not showing what we are seeing. Is that?
It's on you.
Oh, okay, so no worries, thank you.
All right, so I'm not in charge of the screens. You know, in going into 2024, we want to continue and continue some changes and then also strive to really stabilize this fund. We went into 2024 and we made some changes to some of our benefit vendors, and we were able to provide comparable, if not better, benefits to our employees, resulting in a projected savings of $480,000 to $600,000. We moved our plan year to 7/1, and in doing so, we're going to create more space for the budgeting and open enrollment process to better coincide together. And then we'll also give ourselves more space to implement some more plan design changes. We're going to continue the quarterly healthcare education classes this year. We found those to be really helpful for our employees. And, you know, through the implementation of the high deductible health plan, we were really happy with the increase. Up to 30% of our benefit eligible employees are enrolled in that plan this year. So, and that's what we have. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you.
Thank you for being our first person at the new podium. We appreciate it. You're breaking the ground. Moving on to committee, board, and liaison reports. Council. Who would like to start?
Sure, I can go. It was a busy couple of weeks. I had the Chamber of Commerce meeting this morning. And a lot was done around the new 9R Impact Center, kind of how we are developing and cultivating the next generation of employees and employers in our community through the high school career program. So it was really cool to see that newly developed building, but then also what they're doing inside of it that really creates the impact. The Southwest Education Collaborative also had some conversation around what they're doing and how to build up that workforce internally. So it's really cool to see some of that work when we all talk about, as businesses, some of the biggest challenges right now are around workforce and how do we get workforce, you know, in Durango? Well, let's grow them from the inside. And that was a really cool part to see. I had my community office hours this morning, so it was great to see some community members. We had 6 people that were there today, and I love seeing what their priorities are for the city. And it was good to have those engaging conversations. So that was really good. It was almost 2 hours today that I was at the library. So it was great. I went and did the Animals High School Career Fair, and I represented a city councilor at the career fair. And it was awesome to get to meet a bunch of 9th graders, show some, you know, interest in what kind of career path they're choosing. So that was really a cool thing to participate in. And then I also that same day went to the Durango High School and went to the Mayoral Youth Advisory Council. So it was it was a action-packed hour long of, you know, hanging out with the high school kids and seeing what's important in their scholastic careers and what they're doing with that civic arena. And lastly, I went to the Community Development Engineering Building ribbon cutting. Almost 2 Fridays ago. So it was good to see that first iteration of the new where community development was down at the old fire station, and then going to see what they're doing now. It was really cool to see how they renovated that space over the last 3-4 months, and it was really great. And
Thank you.
I won't bore you with any more, but that was
Thank you
busy.
very much. You did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, I'll jump in. I had the La Plata Economic Alliance meeting last week. Agile Industries did an update for all of us, which is super interesting. If you haven't heard of Agile Industries, they basically build rocket engines and
here
go
in
into
Durango.
outer space right here in Durango. We did a tour. Were you on that tour? Did you go on that
Yeah,
tour?
I have been on the tour.
Yeah, and it's pretty insane what they're doing and kind of leading the way. Anyways, they're growing, basically building rockets quicker and more advanced than their competitors right here in Durango. They're needing funding to keep up with orders because they're growing so fast. And so they're doing a second round of funding and growth, which is super awesome, and hope that they keep on growing and bringing success to them in Durango. There was an economic outlook presentation, struggling with inflation and and the rate that it's increasing versus pay. Since COVID, basically here in the Four Corners region, wages, inflation's gone up by 20%, wages only up by 13.5. So we're losing ground and the gap is increasing year over year. There was a 9R update and lots of talk about their sustainability efforts, especially with their new construction, which was great to see. Talked about the soil project and the status of that. 86% of their students are at the high school are in a career or tech education course. And so that was great that they have so many options available now. They need some new facilities. There was talk about that, permanent space for Big Picture and the hub. So there's talk about housing needs, as we know. And then the last thing they talked about, Fort Lewis College is doing their Career and Intern Expo. It's on April 11th at 10 a.m. There was 107 employers there last year. So if you're interested in being an employer there, you need to sign up soon because otherwise they're going to be full. They said that they got really full last year. So make sure you sign up if you're an employer and wanting to be a part of it. 400 students attended last year, so they're assuming the same. So it's a great kind of opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you. Counselor Yazzie?
Yes, okay, so I had the Regional Housing Alliance meeting and we talked basically about our strategic plan, and also we're planning a summit where I believe it is in April. And we reviewed some of the workforce housing projects and we're just moving forward with all the projects we got started last year. We're just moving forward with everything and it's going really well. And then on the 9th, I had ribbon cutting with Mayor Youssef over here at the new community development offices. And that was real exciting because we had quite a group out there, maybe 30 or 40. And it was really exciting to go forward and open up the building to the public and then give tours to some of the residents who came. And then on the 12th, we had the urban renewal meeting, and we just reviewed a lot of these meetings. We review a lot to remember what we did because a lot of them are monthly, but we just approved a contract to move forward with what was the development? Yeah, Famberger. And I think that's going really well. Then we were considering another area for urban renewal, but we're still working on that. But other than that, it's been good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Counselor Bosman's? No?
No, yeah, I attended some of the same meetings. Not much to add. Thank you.
Okay. I just a couple comments. I just wanted to make sure the community is aware that we do have an agenda item in our document for update from United Way of Southwest Colorado regarding the 2024 funding allocations for nonprofit organizations in our community. And I bring this up just because it's such an important funding thing that we do here from the city. Over $300,000 in community support funding from the city of Durango taxpayer dollars, supporting our nonprofits in our community. This is a substantial contribution to our nonprofits, and the community should be aware. I counted over 26 organizations that we funded, providing supplemental funding towards anywhere from $2,500 up to $44,000 for Housing Solutions of the Southwest. So many great organizations in there. The BOA, Adaptive Sports, Manna Soup Kitchen, Big Sister, Big Brothers, Boys and Girls Club, Women's Resource Center. So many great organizations providing services to our residents here in Durango. So I just wanted to make sure the community is aware because I think it's really important. The URA meeting that Councilor Yazzie spoke to was a very good meeting, and we did talk about a new URA for Durango Crossings, which is the project that we're considering at the light on 32nd by Bread. Durango Crossing projects was discussed by the URA, and it was discussed that a new URA for Durango Crossings project area could be created to help the development take place for that project. URA funds could be used for a lot of necessary public infrastructure, including roads, utilities, water and sewer, to help act as a bridge to reduce the finance burden to the developer, allowing the developer to possibly create even more workforce housing units for this project. There would be a direct correlation between the funds collected from the URA and invested directly in the property. And because the city is bringing in land for this project, we already have committed 50% of the units to be workforce housing. With the URA, we might even be able to consider more, a higher percentage. So that was good news. The groundbreaking ceremony that we attended downtown for the new building next to the new police station and city hall was a really exciting first step in the moves of the Durango, facilities reorganization. So that was a big news. And then I had an airport commission meeting on February 15th, and we got updates on the 1A construction, which is really exciting. We're at the very end of the construction phase for that project. They're currently finishing flooring, tiling, ceiling, furniture here and there. Major milestones are out of the way, and we're basically closing in on the home stretch. Once the ribbon cutting event is done, then the demo wall will come down, and it will be open to the public. So it's getting really exciting. I hear it looks really very good. It's not fully complete, but huge progress, and it will be fun to open up the main area to the public. It will have also new restrooms. And so once that gets open, then they will close the current restrooms and demo those. We'll all be sad to see those go. 1B design is fully complete. They're getting maximum price from the contractor and expecting that on February 28th. So making progress on that as well. And then the last thing they talked about, well, they talked about quite a few things, but the last thing that I wanted to bring up in that meeting was that they had a huge big plane land in Durango, 166 seat capacity. It was a Boeing 737-800. It was basically an equipment swap, and it was programmed into Durango. And they're going to sprinkle it into our system from what Tony tells us now and then, once or twice a month. But our market is strong, and we're able to do these swaps when needed. And this was a really large plane. So the photos were fun to look at here in our Durango La Plata County Airport. And all things went smooth on our end from the operations perspective, from ramp safety, de-icing, and everything else. So it was really good to hear about that. So big kudos to our airport staff. So now we'll move on to public comment on agenda items only, agenda items 8, 9, and 11. This public comment is for comment on items we're considering in our business meeting tonight, 8, 9, and 11. We'll see if we have comment first. Nothing. Okay. I will save my voice for that then. We will just move straight on to the consent agenda. May we please have a reading of the consent agenda, Ben?
Thank you. Item 8.1 is approval of meeting minutes. 8.1.1 is approval of the minutes from the February 6, 2024 City Council regular meeting. Item 8.2, final reading of ordinances. We have item 8.2.1, which is final approval of ordinance 2024-0003, approving the Durango Crossings Partnership annexation and declaring an effective date. And that's at 1480 through 1540 Florida Road, submitted by Community Development. And then there are no items under adoption of resolutions by consent, no items under approval of other administrative items, and there are no items under land use and development action items. And lastly, there's no items under requests for public hearing.
Thank you, Ben. Is there any council that would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please, Ben.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Councilor Bosmans,
Yes.
Councilor Woodruff,
Yes.
and Councilor Yazzie.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Moving on to item number 10. May we have a reading of 10.1, please?
Item 10.1 is the Elk Grove addition at 455 and 589 High Llama Lane.
Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Councilor Yazzie,
Yes.
Councilor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
and Councilor Bosmans.
Yes.
Great. The public hearing is open. We'll start with the staff presentation.
Okay.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark Williams, Community Development Department. As you said, this is a public hearing for the Elk Grove preliminary plan. This is a plan development, which has 3 steps. City Council approved the conceptual plan last year. This is the second step in the process, the preliminary plan. And so at this step, we have more details of the project than you saw last year at the conceptual phase. This is a map to give you a sense of where we are, Elk Grove in the green. And then sort of for some context, BLD, which not all of you saw over here on the eastern side of the South Fork area, the Future Church to the left of that, and then Mercy Hospital further to the east. So a quick overview of the project. The applicant's proposing 62 single-family homes that'll be around 13,000 square feet. To have 2 bedrooms, the lots will generally range 4,000 to 6,000 square feet. Some of the lots will be a little bit bigger than that, maybe closer to 7,000 feet. And then the applicant will also construct internal streets, which he'll dedicate to the city. Those will have sidewalks and street trees in compliance with city standards. And there'll also be some open space for the residents, some site amenities like picnic areas, and then water quality detention. All of the proposed standards meet city design standards. Something that's a little bit unusual about this project is it'll be built in 3 phases. And you can see how here the breakdown of the different houses between the phases, but phase 1 would be scheduled for May of this year if it's approved tonight. And then West Hill, the applicant, is planning to complete it by 2026. So there's a reason that the project's being phased. So this map shows the reason to get you oriented again. South Fork, and then Elk Grove, and then the red, green, and blue lines on here are the future street network. So the red is Crater Ranch Road. This will be the main spine in South Fork. And then the green is going to connect Crater Ranch Road to the blue, which is High Llama Lane. The green is going to be called, Arena Lane, by the way. And then phase 1 of Elk Grove is the southern portion of the property. The entire project site is about 25 acres. So just a smaller portion will be developed at first with some open spaces on the west side over here. And then on the west, can't do it. Anyway, the west side of the upper portion as well. And then that yellow line that you see right here in High Llama Lane, that's roughly where phase 1 will end. And so the applicant will improve High Llama Lane from Wilson Gulch to the south up to the yellow line. And then he'll be able to do phase 1. The city has standards on how many houses you can finish when there's only one access in and out. So High Llama Lane will be completed to city standards. And then when phases 2 and 3 are built, when the road network is complete, which is scheduled for next year, then phases 2 and 3 can be finished. This is a phasing map of what I just showed you. So north on this map is off to the right. Phase 1 is red, Wapiti Way, and that's 19 units. Phase 2 is green. And so there are a couple of gaps where there might have been houses before that you can see on the north side of what's marked as Elk Grove Drive. The first is this right here. This is actually an easement to Tom Stoltz's property to the west. So Mr. Stoltz wants to retain this easement for his access, which he's entitled to do. So that'll stay for his access. The parcel right here is another 5-acre parcel that is not being developed at this time. It's not part of this project, but we ask that this lot not be developed so it could provide future right-of-way access up to the Godfrey parcel so that at some point in the future it could be developed. So that's why you've got those 2 blank lots. And then to the southern southeast corner of the project, and then over in phase 3, you can see those these areas. These are detention areas, and then the rest of this will be for picnic playgrounds, etc. This is a little fuzzy, but this is a close in of the plat, and I wanted to show this because it's got one detail we couldn't see before, and that is there'll be trail access for people who live here up to at least the open space for the project. The open spaces will be owned and maintained by the owners association, by the way. They won't be public open space. And then the red line is the extent of the High Llama Lane improvements for phase 1 before phase 2 gets it built all the way to the top. One of the requirements for this project is fair share. For 62 houses with 2 bedrooms, the fair share fee is about $1.56 million. So they'll be paying those by phase. And so there'll be a certain amount due phase 1 building permits, phase 2 building permits, and phase 3 building permits until we've collected all of them. And the city can take those fees, and you can see there's various things that we can use them for: land acquisition, for use as local match, for leveraging other funds to build housing. Traditionally, we've given a lot of that money to Homes Fund for down payment assistance. And then there are other opportunities that we continue to think of. So this project does align with the strategic plan, the comprehensive plan, and the housing plan. The Planning Commission reviewed this project in September of last year and voted unanimously to recommend approval. We did have some public comments from neighbors in the area who are concerned about light pollution from the project and road construction. So we'll probably ask that the applicant make sure that all lights are dark skies compliant. So just to remind you of the hearing procedures, the applicant, West Hill, is here to answer questions, but there will be no applicant presentation. So at this point, or when I'm done, you can take public comments. Then following the public comment, council can close the hearing and act on 2 separate motions that we have, the ordinance and the resolution. And then staff will display the recommended motions at that time, but we can just go down there real quick to take a look at them. The first one is, this is this final vote for the annexation. This Elk Grove is not in the city limits, so it would need to be annexed. And then the last recommended motion, if annexation is approved, is for the preliminary plan. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now have comments from the audience. Do we have anyone who would like to speak in public comment for this item, item number 10?
Good evening. My name's Tom Stoltz.
Hold on for just a second.
Sure.
Okay, great. I'm just seeing one. Excellent. So yeah, if you state your name, please, whether you're a resident of the city or not, you'll have 3 minutes for public comment. We won't respond from the dais. And you will be directing your comments to us now that you're facing us. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. My name's Tom Stoltz. I live at 543 High Llama Lane, which is adjacent to this plan. And I am city resident. Just wanted to express my concern about the congestion and, you know, not just light pollution, but traffic. You know, you're talking about a lot of homes and small lots. Understand, you know, the challenges, because there's a lot of people coming here. It's a beautiful place. I love living here in Durango, but we have to, I think, concern ourselves with the future. And I recently just read an article in the San Diego paper where I live part of the year, where these cities, and it's countrywide, everyone has a problem with particularly affordable housing shortages. You have to be careful because these congested areas, they haven't turned out like they were originally planned. And that's why I just asked for caution, prudence, and I know you were all interested in the best for Durango. So I thank you for the time. And I think I did send Wes a copy of the article, but he said he'd take it into advisement. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have anyone who would like to comment virtually on this item?
Yes, Mayor, there's one person with their hand raised.
Okay.
Bringing in Aaron now.
Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Aaron, we can hear you. If you can let us know if you are a resident of the city, and please speak to item number 10 only tonight for this part of the agenda.
definitely. My name is Erin. I am a resident. I live on High Llama, just north of this property. I'm curious if the residents will be with this new development, if the current residents will have ability to access like public city and water and sewage. If that will be part of the plan or an option for us to hop on, as I think we're all on well and septic.
I'm sorry, we aren't
and I-
answering questions from the dais. This is just your opportunity to make comments. You can pose questions if you like, but we won't be answering them.
I understand. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. Any other comments virtually? Doesn't look like it. Okay, great. I will go ahead and close the public hearing. I'm going to ask council to wait to have your comments and or questions heard until we have a motion on the floor. May we have a reading of item 10.1.2?
Thank you. This is an ordinance approving the Elk Grove annexation ordinance and declaring an effective date submitted by Community Development.
Excellent. Do I have a motion? Do we have a resolution number? Do we need a? So you just moved to approve the ordinance.
Do I need to advance?
Here it is. Here, right here.
I move to approve the ordinance annexing the Elk Grove addition with the initial zoning and planned development with the findings and conditions as outlined in the staff report and discussed at this public hearing.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Council discussion. Who would like to start?
Sure. I have actually just more of a question than anything. Mark, I know that we had initially tried to get Prop 123 funds to offset some of the costs for some 10 homes to be in that affordable index. When is the kind of the point of no return to be able to apply for Prop 123 funds? Is there like another date that we could, are we still going to try to, are we still going to try for grants to get some of these homes in
For
the?
this project, no. I think when we went into this project last summer and last fall, you might remember Prop 123, the rules were being devised as we were going through. So we thought we would throw our hat in the ring and see what happened. And they had several rounds of rules come out and each one really didn't apply to this project, unfortunately. So we determined that we couldn't get those funds for this. And so that's one of the main reasons why we settled on the fee in lieu instead of the built units.
Okay. And then the 5 acre Godfrey property, that wasn't a part of this project. Is there a reason that wasn't being utilized now, or is the grade too steep to?
No, it's developable. I know that West Hill has looked at that project and you would have to ask Wes what the precise reason is right now. I think maybe it came too late in the game to be part of this project. So instead of going back to square zero to include our square one, all 4 of these properties, I think we're going with the 3 right now, and then we might go back to Godfrey in the future.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Other councilor comments? Question?
Thank you for presenting that. I have a question for the developer. Is he? Oh, there you go. Thank you for being here and willing to add housing to our inventory, including on the other projects. I have a very specific question for you. Are you familiar with the voluntary transfer fees that are often in place of fee in lieu payments under the fair share ordinance?
Voluntary transfer payments instead of the fee in lieu?
Yeah, so it would be, it happens in Twin Buttes and in Three Springs, where on the deed you have a 0.5% or a 1% transfer fee. And if a developer applies that voluntarily, depending if the option is provided to you, then you don't pay the fee in lieu. So I was just wondering if you were provided this option by city staff.
I was not.
Okay. Then that was all the questions I had for you at this point.
Okay.
I will make my comment here for the meeting. I'm seeing it 62 single family homes. The cost of the fair share ordinance is 1.56 million, which equals to a cost increase of $25,000 for each of the 62 units. I hear more often that the fair share ordinance is not a solution or part of the solution to affordable housing, but actually is part of the problem and a cause for the increasing cost of housing. In this project alone, the city just adds a $25,000 fee on the cost of each unit. So the cost basis for the developer went up $25,000 per unit. And I assume that any property in the vicinity will use those higher numbers in their comparables, so likely increasing those property values as well. And if you look at the Housing Innovation Fund in general, the forecast and budgets, which include the fee and lieu payments, seem totally mismatched with the various projects and fees, this being an example, that we see. And the same goes for how we spend those housing innovation funds, which to me is very concerning. An example being the Leasing for Locals pilot program, for which the city committed $750,000 without it ever being presented to city council or our community. So I would certainly like to see more detailed financial analysis of the revenues and expenses over the past years and forecast in the future. Something I think our taxpayers would not be very impressed with. But most importantly, a fee and lieu payment is a one-time payment. So it is not a structural long-term source of revenue for housing or affordable housing. A voluntarily transfer fee of 0.5% or 1% would be a long-term source of revenue without significantly impacting the initial cost for the development. So I think it's a great project, but I think you should be, I hope that we would provide direction as a council to at least offer you a voluntary transfer fee option, because we have done it in multiple other projects, and it would be no cost burden, a small cost burden to you in the first place, 0.5% or 1% on the transfer of deed. And every time the property sells, it would be a small source of revenue for housing in the long term. So I think the project is great to add housing. I just think we need to reassess how we deal with fair share ordinance and at least give you that option. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Other councilor comments?
I'm just going to jump in just so people in the audience are aware we are addressing our fair share. I think that, I don't know if Eva's here, but in April, I think is when it's going to, the new program is going to be started or launched, and we're working with a consultant. Fair share promotes equity and fairness. It creates a more sustainable and prosperous city, and it builds stronger communities. Numerous communities all around us in Colorado, especially communities with a housing crisis, use some sort of fair share fees across the board. We know it's not the right, and what we do isn't perfect, but we're working to make it better. And so I want to just make sure everyone knows about our fair share efforts and what we have going on, and how many projects these fair share funds have assisted and helped in creating affordable housing for our residents and our workers.
Excellent. Any other council comments? Go ahead, Council Yazzie.
I'd like to thank the developer for moving forward with this project, because to do one of these housing projects, it takes a lot of input from a lot of people in the community, a lot of stakeholders, your individual effort into providing workforce housing. So I commend you for your effort. Thank you.
Can I say something real quick about that? Just out of the over 100 acres that we're developing in Three Springs area, the housing is the absolute hardest. So you're exactly right. There's a lot of effort. And just while I have a chance, I know Mark Williams and Eva Hansen deserve a big thank you, because they have put significant time into this and trying to make it work. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Other councilor comments? Good. I would just add also my appreciation for this project. It's exciting to see more units coming forward. And I would just ask perhaps Mr. Williams, if you might be able to respond to the differences in our agreements with Twin Buttes and Three Springs for the fair shares. I know those were in place long before units hit the ground. So can you just talk to how we established those two separate transfer fee
Um,
agreements with those
sure.
two organizations?
Yeah, the city adopted Fair Share in 2009, I think, and then Three Springs and Twin Buttes came online before Fair Share was adopted. So at the time, that was determined to be the best option for getting those units or that money. But a big part of that is the scale of these properties. When Three Springs was originally approved, I think it was 2,100 units. It's been scaled back a little bit, maybe to around 1,750, something like that. Twin Buttes is approved for over 650 units. And so the strength of the transfer fee model is you've got hundreds or even thousands of units, and then you have a small fee on each real estate transaction. And so it starts really small, but then it snowballs over time, and that snowball can take, like, a couple decades to where before it starts becoming something meaningful. And so there's a economy of scale. At some point, it makes sense to do a transfer fee, but you've got to have enough units. I don't know what that break point is, but it's a lot.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. All right. And with that, may we have a roll call, please?
Before you do that, don't we have 3 minutes to respond to other comments?
If you want to just respond to the comment
Yeah.
of this one.
I just wanted to clarify to everybody who's listening that the draft Fair Share Ordinance update that we have seen has 0 mention of transfer fees as an option. So just to clarify that option.
Do you want to respond to that, Mark?
That's correct. Transfer fees are not in there.
Right, because of the fair share itself in lieu.
Because we do,
It-
right, we do the fee in lieu.
It's a
Transfer
different
fees,
option. It's a different way of,
It's still an
provide-
option
yeah.
for, any plan development project. If we can run the numbers and if we have a big project coming down the pike, then that's something that might happen.
thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, may we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Buell.
Yes.
May we have a reading of item 10.1.3, please?
Thank you, Mayor. And this is a resolution approving the Elk Grove preliminary plan and authorizing the mayor to sign the final plat submitted by the Community Development Department. And this is going to be Resolution 13.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the Elk Grove preliminary plan resolution with the findings and conditions as outlined in the staff report and discussed at this public hearing. Instruct the applicant to submit the Phase 1 final plan for staff review and authorize the mayor to sign the final plat milers at the appropriate time.
Second.
Great. Council discussion.
I'll make a brief comment. I will support this project. I would prefer that we direct staff to offer the developer the option for transfer fees because that is a long-term structural source of income and it reduces the cost basis for the developer and increases the likelihood of everything going as planned. So assuming that the majority of council does not support that amended motion, I will still support this one because I don't want to hold up this project. Thank you.
Any other council discussion? Roll call, please, Ben.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
and Mayor Youssef.
Yes. May we have a reading of item 11.1, please?
Thank you. And this is a resolution to make amendments to the 2024 adopted budget submitted by Devin Schmidt and various departments.
Great. We'll start with you, Devin. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excuse me, Devin Schmidt, Chief Financial Officer for the City of Durango. I'm here this evening to present to you a resolution amending the 2024 capital budget. So without further ado, you will see a minor change to the format of this presentation. We are looking to accommodate just project-specific questions. And so the directors of each one of those departments will be presenting those different capital project areas that we are asking for a budget resolution for. So, but to start off, we did want to highlight, you'll see on here with our expense amendments, that there is sufficient funding for each one of these capital project requests. And so just high level here, you can see that there is sufficient funds available for the capital projects. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Sarah Hill.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I do have a few multimodal CIP resolutions for your consideration tonight. The first request is related to the Midtown Safety and Connectivity Project. This project was funded to improve safety for cyclists, pedestrians, and cars in our Midtown area. One of the elements of this project is a proposed redesign of 3rd Avenue, Florida, and 15th Street, or Malfunction Junction, as it is commonly and unaffectionately known. The preliminary design proposes a mini roundabout at this intersection. And the reason for that is mini roundabouts are shown to improve the level of service and safety for intersections with similar conditions, and it was our engineer's recommendation. So support for the mini roundabout has been mixed. It did receive initial support in a questionnaire that was distributed citywide, but we have heard clearly from some residents that they are not supportive of this alignment. So because of the mixed support and engagement, staff developed a focus group to provide an in-depth citizen review of the project and a recommendation. And although the purpose of the focus group was not necessarily to reach a consensus, they did come up with one single recommendation for staff. And that recommendation is that staff investigate the feasibility of an alignment that eliminates the left-hand turns at Malfunction Junction if you're heading north, and opens westbound left-hand turns off of 3rd Ave onto 14th Street across the current 3rd Avenue median onto 14th. So staff received an engineering estimate from SEH for the cost to develop 60% engineering plans for this alignment, and that amount is $75,000. The Financial Advisory Board passed on a recommendation to council at their meeting last month. And since that recommendation, there has been some confusion as to what that $75,000 is going to fund. So I wanted to make sure I really explicitly broke that out for you guys tonight. The total $75,000 will be going towards the additional 14th Street alignment. It will be going towards the necessary survey work at 14th Street that wasn't originally included in the scope. It will include an update to the traffic impact study, because with our original traffic impact study, we didn't look at redirecting more cars onto 14th Street, so that needs to be modeled. We will spend a portion of that $75,000 to go towards redesigning 15th, 3rd, and Florida to disallow northbound left-hand turns. So there will be some design required at Malfunction Junction. And the majority of the funds will be going towards designing the intersection and street alignment across the 3rd Ave median onto 14th Street. So based on the focus group's recommendation and FAB's recommendation for funding, staff is requesting an additional $75,000 to look at the 14th Street feasibility. This will give us a cost estimate for both treatments, the mini roundabout and the alignment of 14th Street, because we want to be able to look at the facts and all of the information possible to make the safest decision for the community. We want to bring that information with engineering to council to be able to make that decision with all the information. You can see also that the total request is for $78,000. So with the multi-year CIP projects, the amount that we spend in the current year is kind of a moving target when we're in the budget process phase in the summer and fall. So we make our best estimate of how much we're going to spend on the project in the year that we're developing the budget. And this is really just simply truing up the true expenses of what we were able to spend on the project in 2023. So we were a little delayed in what we spent because we were a little delayed in the design, because we stood up the focus group and took a little bit extra time with the community engagement. So that additional $3,000 is simply moving from 2023 to 2024. It's not increasing the budget. It's just moving those funds that we didn't spend in 2023. So that is the description of the request for Malfunction Junction or Midtown. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to take those now before we move on to the others.
Thank you.
Keep
Oh,
going.
he's okay, babe. Are you gonna wait? Of course, yeah.
That works. Okay, so moving on, we're moving into request. This is a group of projects that we're asking for a decrease to what we originally requested in the 2024 budget. And again, this is not changing the total adopted budget. This is just reconciling what we spent in 2023 and 2024. So this request is related to Rusa Connect, North Main ADA improvement, and Junction Street traffic calming. We made more progress on the design of these three projects than we expected to at the time, based on kind of a milder winter. We were able to do some of the potholing for some of the projects and things like that, that we thought we were going to have to push off. So we are requesting a decrease to the 2024 budget of $176,935 because that was already spent in 2023. And then similarly, this next request is to true up the actual expenses for the Downtown's Next Step pedestrian design phase 1 between 23 and 24. Again, it's not changing the total budget, just moving the funds in the year that they were actually spent. So we're asking to move 46,000 additional funds from 23 to 24. And that is it for our multimodal request.
Thank you. Yeah. We're just going to get through all the presentations.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Scott McLean. I'm the Assistant Parks Director. So Parks and Recreation has 4 projects that we're requesting reappropriation from 23 funds to 24. The first project is the Schneider Park improvement. So this includes the 6 pickleball courts at Schneider Park, the lighting on the Animas River Trail, and the landscape improvements. Contractor has been hired for that job, started the project in the fall. We made significant progress on the project. So the funds are just taking what's left from 23, reappropriating to 24 to finish paying the contract and completion of the project this spring, early summer. The second project is at Lake Nighthorse with our FLAP grant. The FLAP is a Federal Lands Access Program. So that was a grant fund we received to pave the entry drive from the entry station down to the beach, and then also pave the parking area at Lake Nighthorse. And 23, this Federal Highways is administering this project. We owe $130,000 for the design engineering, our portion of that fee. We had some hiccup between administration and getting that transfer of funds. It did happen in 23, so this is a reduction to the 24 budget of $130,000. The next project is completing an open space assessment and a priority plan for our open space. This would be similar to the work we did the last year and a half with both the parks and facilities. We did an assessment of our parks, the facilities, and then put together a plan to help us move forward. This is the same sort of project for the open space, hiring a consultant to do a survey assessment of the open space, look at what needs to be done, help us prioritize, put budget numbers to that so that we can move forward the next 5 years. This was a project that we had in the 23 budget with some of the natural land staff transition this year. We didn't get to it, but we're in a position now to move forward in 24. And then the fourth project is the Animas River Trail, designing the section from Santa Rita Park south to County Road 210, or kind of the connection spur trail to Nature's Oasis. Again, this is a project that we started with COV Engineering in 23 and are continuing on into 24. So this will help get us the design completed on that project and then out to bid either later this year in preparation for 24 or 25. So with that, I will turn it over to Tony with the projects for the airport.
Thank you so much. Hi, Tony.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tony Vicari, Aviation Director at the Durango La Plata County Airport. Here to present 4 projects for reappropriation in 2024. Similar to my peers, you'll hear me reference the first 3 of these projects are simply shifting funds that were originally appropriated in the 23 budget into the 24 budget. That is simply a timing issue. We create the capital budget based on estimates midsummer, and that is estimating where contractors will be in invoicing and billing process through the end of the year, and then what will subsequently carry forward into a future year when it's a multi-year CIP project. So in each of these first 3 cases, there's no change to the overall budget. Again, just simply transitioning funds from the 23 budget to the 24 budget. The first of these is phase 1A of our terminal expansion project. We're requesting an addition or reappropriation of just over $1.5 million into 24. Again, just a process or a timing consideration. We initially anticipated that non-construction would be a little bit further ahead in terms of their billing. The overall project remains fully on schedule. As the mayor mentioned in her comments earlier in the meeting, that project is on schedule for ribbon cutting in early April. So no change there. Second project is design on phase 1B of the terminal expansion. Also, as the mayor referenced earlier in the meeting, phase 1B design is now complete. So this is simply shifting a few extra dollars into 2024 to match up where invoicing for the project is at its final completion. Thirdly, our replacement of an aircraft rescue firefighting vehicle at the airport. This was brought under contract in 2023, and we're simply again shifting funds into 2024. This is due largely to the fact that the manufacturing timeline for aircraft rescue firefighting vehicles is very extended. It's going to be close to an 18-month overall manufacturing period. We were anticipating a very long manufacturing period, but that is even longer than originally anticipated. Unfortunately, no major surprise in the current supply chain environment nationwide. So again, just shifting that, no change to the overall budget. And then lastly, this is the only one that is adjusting the overall budget. We have a commercial apron concrete joint seal project. This is preventative maintenance on the concrete apron where aircraft park at the airport. And we're looking for an appropriation of $18,000 above the original budget. And this is simply to accommodate additional grant funding that we received from CDOT Aeronautics to that tune, $18,000 more than we anticipated. And so we're looking to increase the overall budget so we can take advantage of that grant funding in its maximum amount to incorporate the widest degree of scope on that project.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all the staff presentations. Can I get a motion from council, please? Here is the motion. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R-2024-0012, appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts and for the purposes as set forth below for capital expenditures for the city of Durango, Colorado for the 2024 budget year.
Second.
Council discussion. Who would like to start? Anyone? Go ahead.
Discussion? Yeah. I had a couple of questions. Sarah, if I could maybe ask you first. Thank you so much. I just wanted to clarify this extra 78,000 that was requested for the Midtown safety. It sounds like I understood it correctly, but I just want to make sure that I understand 100%. So it sounds like you and the multimodal team are trying to work in concert to find design standards for both what potentially the roundabout looks like, and then also what the 14th Street left-hand
Right.
turn. So 2 different designs.
Yes.
That we're trying to fund fully to a certain design completion in order to figure out which one is best from a fiscal standpoint and the timeline. Is that right?
Close. So yes, we're moving both to 60% design so that we will have engineering, surveying, cost estimate for construction and actual cost to project, right-of-way needs, just total feasibility for the community to make a decision. We'll have an opportunity for weigh-in once we reach those 60% designs, and then the council will ultimately make the decision of which direction that we want to go with that.
Okay. 2 more things. And then so all 75,000 of this extra money that is being asked for will go towards that 14th Street design, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you have a timeline, an anticipated kind of idea of when both designs could be up to 60% for another presentation?
That's a good question. I'd be kind of guessing right now. We are at 30% for the mini roundabout and ready as soon as the, funding conversation is addressed, then we're ready to move forward. So I would say, by the end of the year, definitely we'll have a we'll have 60% to bring before you.
And then I assume a focus group presentation will be in order for them to kind of get an idea also.
We haven't talked about reconvening the focus group, but you know, we're totally open to that. That was just a one-time joining of the focus group folks, but we are happy to get their feedback on that since they did make their recommendation.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Other questions from council? Go ahead, Councilor Yazzie.
Yes, for you, Sarah. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, I would just want a little bit of clarification on the Downtown Next Steps program. Now, from the original concept of a walking mall, it has changed to include traffic down the street and just improvements in the sidewalks. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, the project is really to address safety of all of the different road users there, the pedestrians, bicyclists, people driving on in the road. So the scope of the project is really expanding sidewalks, making it more walkable, reducing the amount of length of a pedestrian being vulnerable to cars on the road. So we have heard a lot of concerns about, you know, changing the character of downtown or being very disruptive to downtown. And really, the intent and the scope of the project is just to install safe walking facilities and to improve, you know, slow traffic and improve the user experience. And when we've had the opportunity to talk to most of the business owners downtown with concerns, we have been able to address some of those major concerns. And really what we're hearing now is concern of construction impact. So we're working up some innovative solutions to keep businesses open and to stagger the impact. And, you know, Main Avenue is on the schedule for full reconstruction anyway. It is in bad shape. The pavement is starting to get a little bit used. So there will be, regardless of the downtown's next step, there will be impact construction to downtown at some point. So we thought this is a really good opportunity to address the safety concerns that we're seeing with, you know, pedestrians being struck by cars in the downtown area, and really trying to create a safe and happy experience for our residents.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bosman.
Oh, yeah, I'll end with a question, but I have a little comment to make, a little 5 minutes. I listened to the Finance Advisory Board meeting when this was discussed, and there was a $300,000 budget for the studies, of which we have spent $163,000, mostly associated with the roundabout and the crossover option. And now the request is for the $75,000 for the left-hand turn option. And the only issue I keep hearing from staff against the left-hand turn is safety issues being visibility. And it's absolutely not clear what exactly the safety issue is, because visibility going north on 3rd Avenue, turning left into 14th Street would seem to be great as in visibility. Many years ago, this was a full intersection, and one could argue visibility at that time was an issue if you would be turning east, which would be uphill. But that option is not part of this, that situation is not part of this option. So the safety issue seems to be gone. It also seems that the studies being done are mostly car traffic related. And this is a multimodal project, and the pedestrians and cyclists are very important in this equation. And so far, all of those that I've spoken with are very opposed to the roundabout or the crossover options. And from what I hear, the left-hand turn option is a lot easier to do and with a lot less impact during construction. And the cost is expected to be significantly, and I mean significantly less than the other two options. So what is interesting is that beside the city, everybody I speak to is against the roundabout or the crossover option and in favor of a left-hand turn roundabout. Left-hand turn northbound from 3rd Avenue into 14th Street. Even the focus group appointed by the city is for the left-hand turn. And as you know, this is going to be an interesting one. About 2.5 years ago, I was on the Multimodal Advisory Board. I asked staff if the board would be presented with high-level options before we spent any consulting fees for designs and studies. And I was told that that could be done. Now, 2 years later, having spent $163,000, no changes to Malfunction Junction, and we're planning to spend a significant amount more. I think this falls under the responsibility of the city manager, but I also think councilors need to provide clear direction. I believe as a council, we should provide the direction to move forward with the left-hand turn into 14th Street only and assess in the future if the turns from 3rd Avenue and 15th or from Florida into 3rd Avenue need to have restrictions in their left-hand turns. It is not required at this point, can be phased. And I would suggest an immediate stop on any spending on the other options because we already spent 163 for limited benefit and it might be shelved. If any councillor wishes to amend the motion to restrict the other part, then I would certainly support that. But I will also support the general path forward because I think we need to move forward and we've already spent that amount of money. In the end, we should be doing what our community wants. It's easier, less impact, lower cost. And I'll finish with the question, what amount from the initial $300,000 budget will be spent to complete the design to 60% of the roundabout design? So we're talking here, the 75 is extra for the left turn, but you're also continuing to spend money to bring the roundabout option from 30% to 60%. Is that going to be the remaining 130,000 from the initial budget? Or can we postpone that until we learn more about the left-hand turn? What is the amount that is?
I do not have the line item amount for the original 300,000, but I can look into that and see, how, if it's possible to split that out and get that answer for you.
Well, I'm going to assume it's going to be somewhere between 75 and $130,000. So anyway, thank you.
Great. Other questions from council? All right, may we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Youssef.
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yeah, sure.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
and Counselor Yazzie.
Yes.
May we have a reading of 12.1, please?
Thank you. And item 12.1 is first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Parks and Recreation of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Durango and declaring an effective date.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to table this item to a council meeting in April and request staff do a more comprehensive review of the proposed ordinance changes as we are beginning to have bigger events within our community. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think I heard Councilor Woodruff first.
Okay.
Council discussion.
I agree. I think this is an opportunity for us to really garner stakeholder input to really make sure that we're doing this the right way. And I think the premise behind this was to have a seat at the table for everybody to have this conversation about how we collectively move forward. So I would definitely be in favor of tabling this until we get better input from both the city, the county, and then people like event planners that this significantly impacts to get a better idea of best course.
Excellent. Any other council discussion for tabling this item? Councilor Yazzie.
Yes, I'm in favor of tabling this. And also one of the items I would like to know is how much more work is this going to put on our licensing agency? If it's going to be a whole lot or not? Thank you.
Other councilor comments?
What would be the next steps? How would this look like? We table it. What is the next step?
I might look to staff to help me with that.
Well, according to the motion, I believe the next step is for staff to reconvene, take a comprehensive look and come back to the council in April.
And hopefully engage with some of the key stakeholders as you have been.
Sure.
Would this be appropriate to create a focus group to look at this?
I don't know. I'll leave it up to the staff members that deal with this. So we have mostly, probably the two biggest ones would be Ellen Babers, our special events coordinator, and Chief Brammer to look into it and just kind of see what changes may need to be necessary. And then obviously they're going to reach out to stakeholders if a focus group is needed. I'll leave that up to their purview.
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. May we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Buell
Yes.
and Counselor Bosman's.
Yes.
All right, moving on to item number 13, public comment on non-agenda items. This public comment is for items not considered under our business agenda this evening. If you would like to speak tonight under this agenda item, please sign up now on the sign up sheet in front, right here. We'll just give a second in case there's anyone else who would like to sign up. We want all participants speaking to sign up on this form. Okay, and if there's no one else, then I'll. Great. Thank you very much. Okay. Good nine. We're going to, as I bring you forward, I'm going to ask you identify the topic that you're going to be bringing forward when you come to the podium. I ask that you limit your discussion to 3 minutes. We do have 9 people who want to speak tonight, so I'm going to stick to the time limit. Let us know if you're a resident of the city, and know that we will not respond from the dais. I will be taking comments live and virtual. Please be aware that you will be out of order and we will immediately cut you off if you do not stay on topic. And if there is any mention of hate speech noted, in this case, you will be cut off immediately and noted as out of order. With that, we will go ahead and start with Gina Giannone. I'm sorry if I said that. Okay, if you could come forward to the podium, please.
Greetings, members of City Council and Durango community. My name is Gina Giannone. I am a Durango resident, and I am here again tonight in support of Durango City Council adding to its agenda a resolution in support of an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. I first want to acknowledge that we are aware that this City Council and others around the country are unfortunately being targeted by anti-Semitic hate groups that are completely disconnected from our cause. I know this is terrifying. It terrifies me and all of us in this coalition. As so many of us have expressed at the last meeting, anti-Semitism has absolutely no place in our movement. Please don't let these hateful people silence you and prevent you from doing what is right, from valuing human lives. I also want to share my joy and gratitude to Glenwood Springs, whose City Council unanimously passed a ceasefire resolution to become the first Colorado municipality to do so. Glenwood Springs Councilor Jonathan Goad said, quote, "I think asking for more peace is better than a continued genocide, which is what we're seeing." I mention this quote because it really should be that simple. We are watching a genocide unfold on our screens every day, and we are calling for peace. This shouldn't be controversial, and yet sadly, many feel that it is. Is our society so rotten to its core that calls for a ceasefire, the release of all hostages and political prisoners, and for the immediate provision of life-saving humanitarian aid in Gaza is controversial? More than 29,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been killed, including 13,000 children. Another 7,000 are missing, many under rubble. Nearly 70,000 Palestinians have been injured, including nearly 9,000 children. More than half of Gazan homes have been destroyed or damaged. The Israeli forces are bombing hospitals, ambulances, schools, and refugee camps, and some Israelis are even blocking life-saving aid from entering the Gaza Strip. UN experts, including the Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls, say they are distressed by reports of, quote, multiple forms of sexual assault against Palestinian female detainees by Israeli forces. While the US was distracted by the Super Bowl 2 Sundays ago, Israel took the opportunity to start its air and ground invasion of Rafah, the area it instructed Palestinian civilians to flee to avoid getting targeted. Israel is committing these atrocities with the support of our tax dollars and our weapons, and the United States continues to be the only country to veto ceasefire resolutions at the UN Security Council. When will our elected leaders say enough is enough? Our community is crying out. Hundreds of folks are signing our petition for the ceasefire resolution and coming together in solidarity with Palestine. Durango has weighed in on so-called global issues that our country had direct involvement in before. In 2007, by a 3-to-1 vote, Durango City Council passed a resolution calling for a withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq. At the time, Durango community member Jerry Swingle was quoted as saying, quote, "In a functional democracy, when local governments perceive policies or actions that are damaging to our country, it's not only right, it is their obligation to speak out. It is your obligation to speak out on this genocide. Please put the ceasefire resolution on your agenda." Thank you.
Thank you. Chris McCarthy.
My name is Chris McCarthy. I am a resident of Durango. I'm here to talk about the ceasefire resolution. Here we are once again, watching history play out and feeling helpless. I'm not from here. Like many drifters who founded this town, I have found a home in a sanctuary here in Durango. For the last 2 years, I've fallen in love with the Red Rock Canyons and the granite summits of this wonderful paradise. I come from Mystic, Connecticut, a green coastline rich with sea life, sandy beaches, and a quaint colonial era fishing village that sits upon the ashes of massacred Pequot people. In a pre-dawn attack, 600 indigenous men, women, and children were barricaded within their homes and set ablaze by European settlers. To quote indigenous people's history of the United States, Pequots were living in 2 forts. In one fort were mainly Pequot men. In the other were primarily women, children, and elders. Mercenary John Mason targeted the latter. Slaughter ensued. After killing most of the Pequot defenders, the soldiers set fire to the structures and burned the remaining people alive. I wasn't alive then. No amount of will, determination, and revolutionary vigor can change the past. The distance of time allows us to step back and recognize this for what it is: an abhorrent crime, a bloody massacre targeting innocent civilians, and a brutal war of absolute conquest, and one of the first chapters of a genocide. It stings to say these words. It hurts to know that America was built on blood. I may not be from here, but I am an American. I'm the legacy of pilgrims of the Mayflower, whalers of Nantucket, and soldiers of the Revolution. My family has fought in every major American war from this nation's conception to Afghanistan. Whatever America is, it's in my blood. Israel's assault on Gaza has been called many things: complicated, a war, a genocide, but I've never heard it called unprecedented. That's because we have precedents. We have seen this before. Nothing about this conflict is new or even all that unique. From the Pequot massacre to the Trail of Tears to the Long Walk to the Sand Creek, we have seen this before. Invaders claimed the right to a land and forcefully removed the people who inhabit it. America didn't have to be built on blood. With every massacre, there was a choice. With every forceful removal, there were good people who did nothing. And with every mass grave, there were perpetrators telling themselves they never had a choice. This is why the tragedy in Gaza is not a far-off issue to be conjectured about by national politicians and academics. It is a hyper-local issue. As our hard-earned tax dollars are sent overseas to support this forceful removal of native populations, what do you think the silence of our elected officials are saying to our indigenous neighbors? Because of this, I'm compelled to say loudly and clearly that I am not my ancestors and I do not comply. As I stand on land we all know is stolen, I ask you to make the same choice. I ask you to use every mechanism of power to resist this coerced compliance, to join the millions of Americans fighting to save the soul of this nation, shouting out in one united voice that never again truly means never again. For you, we submit a resolution calling for the ceasefire in Gaza. I ask you to reflect upon your values, not as politicians, but as human beings, and join us in creating a humane legacy we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Lee Dean, please.
Members of the council, my name is Lee Dean. I'm here to further resolve for our ceasefire resolution in Gaza. I've been a resident here for 2 years. I worked with the Southwest Conservation Corps as a youth leader, and I'm working at Game Time as a Game Time leader. And I've stood up here before to take a picture with you all for the work we did at Dollar Park. So I'm grateful for the work that you do and for the opportunities that we have to engage. You should adopt this resolution for 2 reasons: to stop our complicity in the loss of life and the loss of liberation of an entire ethnic population, and to increase the safety of Durango's Jewish population, Arab American population, Indigenous population, and all of us by extension. I want to address the second one, to increase the safety of our local community. A friend that I met through this movement, whose parents are Jordanian and Syrian heritage, said, "I haven't told anyone I'm Arab American. This country doesn't paint Arabs in the highest light. I feel so lucky to have been led to such incredible people here in our community. It's truly incredible to feel this kind of solidarity." And then a person of the Dene Nation who's been showing up each week at the vigils and the marches says, "As an Indigenous person, Palestinian liberation is our liberation." And just today, a few of us were speaking with Dave Woodruff, council men in office hours, and while we were speaking, a member of the community who overheard the conversation spoke up and said, "I'm a Jewish person and I really support the ceasefire." And then afterwards, we were able to talk with her outside, and she asked us, "What can I do? What can I do to support? Like this will help me in the community to be heard." And many of us are going through deeply painful and personal experiences related. Okay, so in the unanimous decision for a ceasefire from Glenwood Springs, Councilman Goad says, "In the 7 years I have been on council, I've never had the kind of response where people have come out and said, 'Thank you for doing this.'" And that's really what I believe will happen in this community. I do think that it will stand against anti-Semitism, as if you look on the resolution, I would highly encourage you to read it. The very last point is that we ask City Council to condemn anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and xenophobia. So that's what we stand for, and that's why you should support this resolution.
So much. All right, moving on to Keaton Griffin. Keaton Griffith.
Hey, my name is Keaton Griffith. I live in Durango and yeah, I'm also here to speak to the call for a the ceasefire resolution as well. Thanks. Okay. The city of Durango has an official land acknowledgement. Think about what that means. That means Durango officially recognizes that it sits on land that was violently stolen from its indigenous stewards. Yet what good is a recognition of this disturbing fact without any meaningful action toward justice? I would argue it is worthless. If we strive to be in line with our land acknowledgement to enact some small form of justice, we can take a stance against the colonial violence Israel is inflicting on Palestinians right now. Make no mistake, Israel's decades-long war on Palestinian existence is colonial in nature. Before I elaborate, I must state once again that we stand against anti-Semitism and therefore condemn the conflation of Israel or Zionism with the Jewish people. The history of Zionist aims to occupy Palestine goes back over 100 years to the late 1800s. Theodor Herzl, the founder of modern Zionism, sought to establish a Jewish nation state in Palestine. Of course, there were already people living in Palestine, including an Arab Jewish population. In fact, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim communities coexisted there peacefully. To achieve their vision of a Jewish ethno-state, Zionists had to occupy an already inhabited land. Fully aware of this, Herzl wrote that the removal of the poor must be carried out discreetly. Herzl also echoed the colonial tactic of claiming that the colonizers' presence would somehow benefit the local population when he wrote that no one can doubt that the well-being of the entire country would be the happy result. In 1917, during European occupation of Arab land following World War I, Zionists gained a powerful ally. Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, formally endorsing the Zionist goal of a Jewish state. Since then, what has been the happy result for Palestine? In 1947, the UN General Assembly voted to partition Palestinian land, empowering Zionists to formally claim it. The Nakba, which translates as catastrophe, followed. 80% of the Arab population of Palestine, some 720,000 people, were forced from their homeland and became refugees. Over 15,000 were killed. In 1948, the nation of Israel was founded on stolen Palestinian land. Today, over 29,000 Palestinians, nearly all civilians, have been killed in Israel's latest assault. The majority of Gaza's population of over 2 million are packed into Rafah, living in fear of indiscriminate airstrikes in a city where Israel promised refuge. It's absurd that I have to explain history while people die. And if you think this is still about self-defense against Hamas, please listen to this. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has worked for years to support Hamas. He once stated that, and I quote, "Anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas. This is part of our strategy to isolate the Palestinians in the West Bank from the Palestinians in Gaza." Clearly, this is not self-defense. Now is your opportunity to live up to Durango's supposed values. Pass our ceasefire resolution, take a stance against colonial occupation and violence. The longer you don't, the more lives are extinguished amid our deafening silence. Thanks.
Thank you. Zachary Lawrence.
Good evening. My name is Zachary Lawrence. I live in Durango, Colorado. Madam Mayor, Council. I am a proud citizen of Durango. My intention here tonight is to urge the city council to make a motion to put our proposed ceasefire on the agenda. This is a humanitarian crisis that is affecting millions of lives in Gaza and billions worldwide. It is threatening regional stability and global peace. As a concerned citizen, I believe that we, the people, and the city of Durango have a moral obligation to stand up to the rights, dignity, and the self-determination of all people in all parts of the world. Palestine is a very unique place under a very strict and abusive occupation. They're constantly blamed for their own suffering and shown little remorse in the Western world. Supporters of Palestine, historically, have been labeled anti-Semitic, terrorist sympathizers. But the world has been watching firsthand, live, the brutal and merciless actions taken against the people of Palestine, against the innocent women, against the innocent men, against the innocent children against innocent children. The conscious world is enraged as we live and cope in a society where our representatives, our family, our friends, and coworkers turn a blind eye, ostracize us, or celebrate the destruction, displacement, and the elimination of a beautiful and loving people who are sitting in tents, constantly listening to drones, bombs, gunfire, the screams of their children, where they are living nearly every single moment in fear. Most families in Gaza right now are getting half a meal every 48 hours. Children are dying of starvation now. Sleep-deprived, starving children whose little bodies are getting flooded with adrenaline are dying of cardiac arrest. Think about that. Terrified children dying of fear. There will be a multitude of preventable deaths of children in Rafah by the time you next convene. As Israel's largest contributor in military and economic aid, I believe the United States could end this with a single phone call if we were so inclined. We are the only country with any leverage, and large-scale global events have begun and end at the drop of a dime. Furthermore, our aid should not be unconditional, but contingent on Israel's compliance and principles of democracy, justice, and peace, the way the law was intended. There is no other option for the people of Palestine. America must champion them, or so I would have said, in a country that represented the people's will, in a country that wasn't afraid to break the status quo and do what is right. Today, someone I look up to asked me, what is next? What is next is the next right thing. What is now is right now, and now is generally all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany Toswak. Sorry, I'm sure I did not pronounce that right.
Anakolotok. Good evening, council members. My name is Tiffany Young Twajuk, and I am a Fort Lewis College student. I'm a resident of Durango for about 8 to 9 months out of the year, and I have been for the past 6 years. Like my colleagues and friends, I am here on behalf of the Durango Palestine Solidarity Coalition. We are here to urge the Durango City Council to pass a ceasefire resolution that so many cities across the United States have. The coalition never has or never will condone anti-Semitism, racism, or any other kind of hate speech towards any race, ethnicity, or religious group. It is disgusting and disheartening that any of these things still exist today. I am Alaska Native. I bring up my indigeneity because I feel this is important to mention. I understand what it means to have strong ties to ancestral and cultural homelands. My people have resided in Alaska for thousands of years, just like Palestinians have resided in their homelands. Millions of Palestinians have been displaced at the hands of the Israeli occupation. The Palestinian struggle is an indigenous struggle, therefore is also mine to bear. For over 70 years, Palestinians have been fighting for their freedom and liberation from Israel. I'm ashamed to say I was not aware of this until after October 7th. Media and news suppression is nothing new, but I'm aware of it now, and I've been using my voice to inform others of the atrocities that the Palestinians have endured for the past 70+ years. The United States has been complicit in the genocide of Palestinians from the very beginning. Colorado has sent millions of dollars to Israel within the past decade. In 2015, Colorado companies received more than $18 million in foreign military financing to provide materials for the Israeli Defense Forces. And for the last 28 years, $223 million in foreign military financing. Colorado alone sent $51 million worth of manufacturing goods to Israel in 2022. Over the past 28 years, Colorado exports to Israel totals to over $1 billion. This is very much a local and state issue. Colorado and the United States have blood on their hands. I don't personally care about political climates and issues surrounding it. You're either for the liberation of Palestinians or you're complicit in their ethnic cleansing. That's all there is to it. This time around, people won't get to say that they were unaware of a genocide occurring in Palestine. That's all.
Thank you. Antonio Espinoza.
Good evening. I guess just go off.
No, if you could say your name, whether you're a resident of the city, please,
you.
and what item you'll be speaking to tonight.
Thank you. I am Antonio Espinoza. I am a resident of the city of Durango, and I will be speaking to the Lived Experience Advisory Board. Mostly just a general informative thing to the public, but I've been homeless for the better part of the entire time I've lived in Colorado, and just now recently getting back on my feet. I've worked with Miss Kathleen, who's the vice president of Project Moxie, Mr. Joel, local social worker, and generally, like, the idea of what we're putting together is to get an actual difference made and like create an impact when it comes to homelessness. Our mission statement is to advocate for positive change for the lives of individuals dealing with housing insecurities in La Plata County through firsthand accounts and homeless expertise to the officials of the city of Durango, funders, business owners, house stakeholders, and generally to work towards a dignified and safe existence for everyone. We have a vision that all community members, every person in La Plata County will have the opportunity for safe and stable housing, and where policies, practices, and laws that work towards the detriment of homeless individuals, whether directly or indirectly, cease to exist. And so, about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Sweetie Marbury.
I'm looking for the clock. Is it on the screen? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Okay. I hope so. My name is Sweetie. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, good. Good to know. Change is interesting. Okay, my name is Sweetie Marbury, and yes, I am a resident of Durango. I came to support the additional money for the design of 14th Street left turn lane. Reopening 14th Street will eliminate the title malfunction junction. I noticed one homeowner objected to the design of the reopening of 14th. I want to remind City Council there are mostly businesses on 14th Street, and yet on 15th Street, there are many houses that experience a great deal of traffic flow every day from Florida Road. Again, 14th Street will lead to a red light, which I believe is a wonderful safety feature for bicycle people as well as cars. I suggest saving money is very important to the City Council, and 14th Street, instead of a roundabout, which was fraught with problems and disliked by many residents, will save money. The last public meeting on 14th Street was in May. So perhaps it's time to revisit another public meeting about the reopening of 14th Street instead of a focus group, which has a very limited number of people. I suggest one more calming feature, which will lower the speed on the curve coming down Florida Road to 15 miles an hour instead of 25 miles an hour. And also change the speed limit on the boulevard. And you can do this, City Council, to 15 miles an hour on the boulevard and enforce it with signage and the good old ticket, because that's how we really learn to curb our speeds. I think getting the attention of drivers going through a neighborhood is very important. I live in a neighborhood and I see speeders, mostly young people, going too fast in my neighborhood. So I'm a big believer in lowering speed limits and getting people's attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sweetie. Trevor Bird.
Mayor, council, and staff, thank you. My name's Trevor Bird. I was a resident for the first 5 years when we moved here to Durango and recently moved out to the county. But I'm a proud business owner of a few businesses here in the city of Durango. And I just wanted to speak for a minute about events in general. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had some really productive conversations with city leadership regarding events. I want to say thank you to all of them that have made time to talk to us. And I think what I walked away with was not only do we want the city more involved, but we need the city more involved when it comes to big events in Durango. I really believe that a lot of these issues come down to communication. Currently for our Labor Day weekend event, we pull 3 different permits through the city. One's through Durango Fire and Rescue, and the other 2 are through the city of Durango. Every year before the Labor Day event, we host several meetings with all law enforcement agencies from the state, the county, the city, and other surrounding law enforcement agencies. Last year alone, we spent over $25,000 just on security for the Labor Day event that takes place here in and around Durango and La Plata County. I don't believe that a judicial process with more ordinances and more permits is necessarily the correct path forward or the solution. One of the things that was pretty shocking, and I don't know if I'm able to speak to this, but when this was originally introduced, it had alternative options considered none, fiscal impact unknown at this time, potential adverse impacts unknown at this time. I appreciate council motioning to table this and to open it up to the city staff to have more discussions, hopefully with all of the stakeholders here in the community and the county that have events within the city limits. I think slowing down and getting this done right is really important. So it's something hopefully that can last for another 10 plus years, and that all event promoters and organizers can have a clear path forward as far as what they need to do to have a successful and a safe event for our community. And I also want to just remind people of the millions of dollars in economic impact that events like our Labor Day Four Corners Motorcycle Rally has here in the city of Durango, the tens of thousands of dollars that we have been able to donate to charitable organizations over the last 6 years, and how it also helps with sustainable tourism. There's so many people that come into town for the Labor Day event that come back and they bring their families to go skiing over the winter, or come back to just bring their families to experience all the beauty of Durango. So again, thank you for hearing me out, and look forward to hopefully being able to continue to be part of the conversation.
Great, thank you, Trevor. All right, it looks like we have 2 individuals that would like to speak to us virtually. Can we start with Julie Cooley, please?
Good evening. I wanted to first thank you for continuing the Zoom meetings. I know that a few weeks ago, that was a little bit of a shock, but I really appreciate that the council is willing to continue with Zooms, because I'm at home talking to you right now. And Julie Cooley, I do live in Durango, and I'm addressing our unhoused neighbors. I've recently read the 2019 Strategic Plan on Homelessness and the 2022 3-year Workforce Housing Investment Strategy. As the strategic plan was developed and shelved prior to most of the council's tenure, I wanted to point out that while the Workforce Housing Investment Strategy is necessary and there has been progress on the plan, it's not a substitute for the 2019 Plan on Homelessness. I would encourage the council to look beyond workforce housing. In addition to people making 30% AMI, and that is roughly $10 an hour if you're getting a 40-hour week, that's the lowest level that is addressed at the Best Western conversion. We, like most communities, have people who are chronically unhoused. The needs of this community include mental health access, a safe place to sleep, and a path to housing. Once a person slips into this level, it's also essential that our continuum of care include all aspects, because once they're in the chronic stage, it's going to cost more and more, and it's harder to get them into housing. For that reason, I encourage the council to include this topic in your upcoming retreat. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to Jody. If we can hear from Jody, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. My name is Jody Underwood, and I live in La Plata County in Bayfield. I'm a member of Durango Palestine Solidarity Coalition, and I'm here to urge Durango City Council to stand with humanity and call for a ceasefire. The Durango City Council should support a ceasefire, as our weapons are demolishing an entire culture, and billions of our tax dollars are funding a genocide and very real 75+ year ethnic cleansing. Since the start of Israel's inexcusable bombardment, we've seen the most vile atrocities, from pregnant women waving white flags being bulldozed, crushing their fetuses inside of their bodies, to the desecration and destruction of cemeteries, hospitals, schools, refugee camps, culture and civilization annihilated. The world's oldest mosques and churches obliterated. We watched a mother and daughter seeking shelter in a church sniped off. Children and innocents being stolen and detained by the thousands in the West Bank to later face torture, sexual violence, and imprisonment worse than death. We've witnessed a beautiful 6-year-old girl named Hind stuck in a car with her murdered family for days, while the ambulance trying to rescue her is targeted and destroyed, leading to the most unimaginable death for this sweet baby. We've watched fathers carry bits of their children in plastic bags, a child pinned to a wall, legs hanging in ribbons of flesh. This doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of everything that's happened. Perhaps you heard about a massacre during the Super Bowl in the supposed safe zone in Rafah, where millions were seeking refuge in tents. The people on the ground show us the daily destruction whilst mourning and begging the U.S. and the world to do something. 30,000+ people have been massacred by Israel, and with full U.S. backing. Each of these numbers is a person, and each of these people is someone's everything. For the people who survive this, what trauma will they have to live with for the rest of their lives because of this constant nightmare they've had to live through? And once again, we're paying for this. We've befriended the people in Gaza and lose sleep worrying if they will still be there when we wake up. When we learned about the Holocaust in school, I could never understand how humanity could allow such atrocities to occur, but we're witnessing it right now live on our smartphones. And I encourage every person listening right now to fight with your entire being to bring an end to this insanity. Are roads important? Yes. Is housing important? Of course. But nothing is more valuable than human life, and nothing is more important than stopping a genocide with whatever power we have. We will not stop coming until the Durango City Council calls for a ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 15. Ben, we may have a reading of item 15.1, please.
Thank you. Item 15.1 is discussion and possible action concerning a motion to approve the settlement of a case concerning the application of water rights filed by Troy Hall, specifically 2018 CW 3054 in La Plata County District Court.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, can you open this up for council?
Sure. Before my tenure as city attorney, it seemed that many of these minor water cases were being settled without specific authority from the council. I've changed that practice, and I'm recommending to the council that not only do we put these settlements on the agenda, that we also do it publicly, not in executive session. You have the briefs in your package as to why our water attorney is recommending settlement of this case. Generally, I can tell you any case that appears on this agenda in this manner will have no significant effect, according to the experts, on the city of Durango's water supply, which is why we're recommending a motion approving the settlement.
Thank you. Can I get a motion from council?
I'll make a motion to approve the settlement as proposed by Fritz Helleman.
Do I have a second? I'm going to open the public comment. We don't normally take public comment on new business. However, Since this is an action item and public comment is on our agenda tonight, did not include item number 15, I'm going to provide an opportunity for public comment regarding the water rights filed in this case. So I'm going to make an exception this time to allow for public comment so we can hear from anyone who might be interested in speaking on this issue. And next time, items such as this will be placed under resolutions so that people will always have the opportunity for public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to speak live or virtually on this item? I'm going to open the public hearing now. And I don't see any virtually and I don't see any live. So I'm going to close the public comment. Do we have any council discussion? Councilor Bosman's?
I just have a question, since we haven't seen these before or not often, no, actually not ever, I think.
There's been one.
Yeah, there's been one. Yeah. Does this happen often? Are we treating residents that have an issue with whatever it is, in this case, water, correctly, or do they have their arm in a vice and have to spend a ton on lawyers to get some justification, justice done, in their opinion? How many cases are there? And when you have these cases, does everybody walk away happy, or is it?
So I can just make some general comments. One, being from Louisiana, I have no experience with Colorado water rights. But in my contract, you guys allowed me to bring in attorney experts who do. I conferenced with Fritz Hollerman in August after I took the job for a couple hours. He came down here, we visited, he explained many of the water rights to me. He explained the practice that he was settling these things without them coming in front of you guys. But I can tell you, in my 25 years of practicing law, things come in batches. We might have 2 this year, and we might have 10 next year. You can't really predict it. What I can commit to you is if there's ever anything that is controversial to where when we settle this case, everyone isn't happy or satisfied, we wouldn't handle it in this manner. We do it in executive session, and I would explain to you the details of why it's controversial. This is a non-controversial case. My understanding is that this is someone requesting to tap into the water system above stream from us, but the volume that they would do that at would not impact the city in a significant way.
Well, thank you for clarifying.
Any other councilor comments or questions? May we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Mayor Youssef.
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Buell.
Yes.
Any other new business from council? I would like to see if there is council support to direct the city attorney to create a council policy for council review at a future meeting that would curtail requests for resolutions concerning religion and international politics. And I'm bringing this forward based on events that have occurred at our last couple of meetings. I'm wondering if there's council support for that. Do I have a second? So this is a motion. This would be a motion to direct the city attorney to create a council policy.
I'll second.
Council discussion. Seeing none, may we have a roll call, please, Ben?
Counselor Bosman's.
Yeah, this is to have the resolution come to us in the future, yeah? So
Correct.
this is still discussion later.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell.
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
Counselor Yazzie,
Yes.
and Mayor Youssef.
Yes. No other new business from council? All right. Any requests for excused absences?
I have one. Okay, for March 11th, I'll be out of town, but I can zoom in, but it might be iffy. So I request an absence for March 12th, but I will try to zoom in.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that? Okay, so a motion for that. I will second it. Council discussion? Roll call, please, Ben.
Mayor Pro Tem Buell,
Yes.
Mayor Youssef,
Yes.
Counselor Bosman's,
Yes.
Counselor Woodruff,
Yes.
and Counselor Yazzie.
Yes.
All right, with that, may we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
spring break and now we're gonna be on some stars.